Before we finish our discussion about copolymerization, I wanted to consider a specific case in more detail. This can give us some more insights into how one would try to control the process in practice. So remember, the copolymer equation gives us an expression that allows us to tell what is the relative composition, or how much of monomer 1 and 2 that we add in the feed will be incorporated into the copolymer. And this depends on not only the amount that we add into the feed, but these reactivity ratios, which tell us what's the preference for addition of one monomer versus the other to a growing polymer chain. Specifically, we looked at one case where reactivity ratio 1 is greater than 1 and reactivity ratio 2 is less than 1. So in this case, there's always a preference for addition of monomer 1, regardless of whether the growing chain has an active site that is associated with monomer 1 or monomer 2. And this leads to a curve that has this shape on this parameter space, where the y-axis is the composition of the product, the copolymer, and the x-axis is the composition of the feed. So in other words, if we add a certain amount of monomer 1 in the feed, we can then tell what amount will be incorporated into the copolymer. So let's think about an example where we want to make some particular composition of monomer 1 in the copolymer. Let's say we want it to be 60% monomer 1 and 40% monomer 2. So how can we use this to get some insights into how we can synthesize this product? So we know that we want our fraction of monomer 1 to be 60%, or 0.6. So that corresponds to a point here on the y-axis. So then we can go over to our curve associated with these choices of reactivity ratios, and we see that when we extrapolate down to the x-axis, this corresponds to a fraction of monomer 1 in the feed of about 30%. So in other words, this tells us that we need 30% monomer 1 in the feed in order to get a copolymer that has 60% of monomer 1. But that's not the whole story. There's some complications that can emerge, because you can imagine that, so say we add 30% monomer 1 to our reaction mix. Well, monomer 1 is going to be consumed preferentially over monomer 2. So over time, this fraction in the feed is going to start to drift. It's going to be reduced from 30% to some lower value. And so as that happens, that's also going to change the composition of the copolymer during the reaction. So this phenomena is called composition drift. So it expresses the fact that during the reaction, as one component is consumed, that also is going to affect its presence in the copolymer, or the makeup of the copolymer that's produced. The question then becomes, how can we take steps to avoid or at least reduce the effects of composition drift? This is an important consideration when one is designing processes to do copolymerization. One way to address this would be to operate in a semi-batch mode. So in other words, you have your reactor, you add some amount of monomer 1, and then at some time during the reaction, you add more monomer 1, so that you keep adding monomer 1 so that you maintain a relatively constant fraction of monomer 1 as it's consumed during the reaction. And this can be done. You need to know the rate constants, or the reactivity ratios, fairly accurately in order to determine the time points or the frequency with which you need to add monomer 1 to the feed, and you need this kinetic data. But that's available for many common polymerization systems. So this can be done, and this is done in industry as a way to maintain a constant composition, or a consistent composition of the product. Another way to influence the composition of the copolymer that's produced would be to try to adjust the kinetic constants, or the reaction kinetics, as a function of time during the polymerization process in order to maintain a constant composition of the product. So if you think about it, when we're operating semi-batch, we're adding monomer, we're adjusting the composition of the feed in order to maintain a constant composition of the product. Here, we could also think about adjusting the reactivity ratios as a function of time in order to maintain a constant product composition. And the way that can be done is by changing temperature as a function of time during the reaction, because these rate constants are temperature dependent. And that can be done. Obviously, we need to know these rate constants accurately and also their temperature dependence. But the problem is that our copolymerization equation involves ratios of these rate constants. These reactivity ratios, R1 and R2, involve ratios of the rate constants, K11, K12, etc. So even though these individual rate constants are temperature dependent, usually in some kind of Arrhenius sense, they have kind of a similar temperature dependence, so that their ratios are not as strongly temperature dependent as the individual rate constants themselves. So it can be done, but it's trickier, and it's not as widely used for that reason. A third way to avoid composition drift is to use a continuous flow reactor, or more precisely, a continuous stirred tank reactor, or CSTR. So this is like, imagine a batch reactor where you continually introduce new feed and remove products, and you have mixing involved so that you can maintain, in this way, a relatively constant composition of reagents or components inside the reactor. And so you design it so that at steady state, the monomer composition in the reactor, monomer 1, is about 30%. So if you can do that, then you can maintain a constant product composition as well. So you balance the rate of flow at which and the concentration of monomer 1 that's introduced into the system in order to achieve that goal. And this also is used in industry to maintain constant compositions of products that are synthesized using these copolymerization reactions.